Hi, my name is Lori Alexander, and I'm frequently accused of hating women. Well, I want to let you in on a secret. It's feminism that hates women.
However, I disagree.
A bit, but apparently it's Growlithe. You okay, girl? How you doing? She's being a good girl. Anyway, on to the video. So as most of you know, we're going to be doing fan art before we get into the actual video itself. So first of all, we have this Among Us fan art from Jack and Quill featuring Dr. Bright trying to convince us that he was not in fact the imposter after committing a lot of heinous murder in one of our last Among Us games. If you want to play Among Us with us as well, then go ahead and hop into the Discord and let us know, because every Thursday we are doing Among Us live streams with fans and friends of the channel. And speaking of that, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god!
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
This piece of fan art was submitted by 20 Dragons, and I just had to animate it. I had to.
What are you?
Pie. Record scratch sound effect.mp3.
That Comic-Con sandwich of Suris was submitted by Ghost Chance. Thank you very much for that, and again, I kinda had to animate it. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. Let's get right into the video.
This morning on my Facebook page, one of my top fans said, "Why do you hate women so much?" And I asked her, "Why are you a top fan of mine if you think I hate women?"
So maybe I can go ahead and clarify this for you, Lori. The top fan designation on Facebook is given to people who spend a lot of time watching your stuff. So if somebody hate watches you for when you say dumb shit like you're about to say, then chances are they'll get the top fan notoriety. This is the same thing that happens when somebody watches a lot of PragerU so that they can be informed on the bullshit that they're peddling, so that when their grandpa decides to say the exact same things worded in the exact same way later on when they're having dinner, they can at least know where they got the bullshit from. Someone can be a top fan and vehemently dislike you.
Well, I want to let you in on a secret. It's feminism that hates women.
Excuse me, what? You know, usually it's people telling me that feminists hate men, not women. Do you think that feminists just hate everyone?
They don't want women to bear children, get married, be homemakers.
Lori, I got a secret to tell you. Just come here. Closer. Closer. There are married mothers who are homemakers and also feminists.
Be feminine. Love men. Be a covenant keeper until death do you part. The babies that you conceive, they don't want you to keep them until you birth them and stay home with them and raise them yourself to love God and love others.
Funny that, Lori, I'm pretty sure there's also, like, Christian feminists. In fact, I know some feminists who are Christian and want to bear children and will bear children. So, I'm starting to think maybe you're just a little full of shit.
Feminism is the one who hates women.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Feminism is the one who hates women.
Ah, I see. Feminism is a person, and they hate women, and they are the god who creates the ungodly doctrine of feminism that hates both men and women and wants to abort all children. Do I have it right?
I love women. I want women to be feminine. I want women to live out their God-ordained lives.
So I'm going to go ahead and let you know right now that if you actually love women, then you will allow them to pursue their interests as they see fit, as opposed to the interests that you think they should have, as opposed to the way that you think they should comply. See, what I'm getting at is that you seem to love the idea of women, what you think a woman should be, the idea of the barefoot and pregnant stay-at-home mom. That idea of a woman is what you love. You love that idea so much, but the actual person, like an actual individual that may not want that future for themselves, regardless of their stance on feminism, that person you don't love, because that person can make a choice that is outside the paradigm you will accept.
of marrying, bearing children, guiding the home, being the ones home to raise their children, and do what God wants them to do. Womanhood is wonderful. It's what God created for us.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and run with this narrative for just a second. We'll pretend that biblical womanhood is good, ignoring the fact that it's, a couple steps left slavery. We'll pretend that God does in fact exist. I'll grant that premise for a little bit, and we'll pretend that he does want biblical womanhood. If we liken God unto a parent, which a lot of Christians are often able to do, this is a thing they do to excuse things like hell, for instance. Hell is a punishment, God is a parent, God has punishments just like parents, etc. But if we run with all this, we can actually come to the conclusion that it's not really a mutually exclusive thing for God to want something, and then you to want something different that's also good. You see, you as an individual can want something that's not necessarily what a God wants, and still do that thing, like if God were a parent and they wanted something for you that would in fact be good. A parent could want you to be a doctor, and a doctor could be a very good career path for you, but you don't necessarily want to spend your time as a doctor. You might want to spend your time as a psychologist because you want to help people, but you want to help people in a different way. Your parent might not want that, but both paths are good for you. The difference is the better path is the one you chose for yourself, because that one is tailored to your needs and your wants. If God wants you to be more womanly, as Lori says, there's nothing saying that you must be that. The fact that God wants it isn't going to suddenly mean that you can't get into heaven. It doesn't mean that you can't live a godly life. You just won't live the exact life that your parent, in this case, wants. But there's nothing wrong with that. You're your own person. We have a word for parents who want their children to operate a very particular way and don't want them to deviate from that path. It's called controlling, and in some cases abusive.
He created 2 genders only, male and female.
Wrong again. God didn't create gender. Gender is a social construct. We created that. If you're trying to say God created sex, well, there's more than just 2 of those as well, because you don't just have XX and XY, you have multiple different chromosomal variants that are way past that. And that's not even to talk about things like Klinefelter syndrome. So even if you meant this as sex, you're still technically wrong. And if you meant this as gender, you're definitely wrong, because, like I said, it's a social construction. We built it.
And no matter how much our culture wants to change that, it will never change.
I'm pretty sure I've got a lot of trans people in my audience who not only would like to disagree with you, but are living, breathing examples of why you're wrong.
A man who becomes a woman after he's been dead 400 years, his DNA will show that he was a male, no matter what he's done to himself or how he's acted.
Lori, you keep saying these words, but I don't think you know what they mean. You know that when we use DNA to figure out somebody's sex, we're actually looking at the chromosomes. And chromosomes are only one of 5 factors we use for determining somebody's sex. You have their chromosomal expression, you have their gonadal expression, you have their phenotypical expression, you have the expression of their genitalia, and then you have their gametal expression, the expression of their gametes. These are all physical features we use to map out what we would classify someone as when we are trying to figure out sex. It's not just the DNA. I hate the fact that I'm having to explain this to you, because you seem to speak on this issue like you're an expert. I'm not an expert, and even I know this basic shit.
No one can beat God. They're fighting God.
Hold on. Trans people in my audience, are you guys trying to be God? Are you guys attempting to be gods and then fight God? Because if so, that's fucking badass.
Can somebody please explain what a trans is doing here?
Future's now, old man.
And feminism fights God. They fight everything about God. They hate God. They've led to a nation that values death and devalues life.
Those are some fairly bold words coming from somebody who's part of a religion that happens to worship death as well. You literally worship a guy who died, and the reward you get for everything you do on Earth is after you die. Everything in the Christian religion in some way revolves around death. So it's almost like it's projection when you argue this.
Millions of babies have been aborted. They fight for birth control. They want women to be able to have promiscuous sex, have sex with whoever they want to have it with.
Yeah, Lori, generally when you have sex, you should be having sex with the people you want to have it with. And don't try to sit here and complain about, oh, all the dead babies, the abortions, they're so bad. No, listen, Lori, you do know that the best way to stop abortions is to have free access to birth control. States that have better health education, better sex education, and easier access to birth control and condoms generally have lower abortion rates. They also have lower STD rates. Go figure. So if you really are so worried about the dead babies, then maybe you should be advocating for birth control. Maybe you should be advocating for condom use. It doesn't matter that people have sex. People are adults. They're going to have sex. Like I said, if you want to love women the way women want to be, not the way that you envision them to be.
Just like men, and have no consequences, although it hurts women a lot more because women are the ones who mostly get the diseases. They're the ones who get pregnant and have to go through abortions.
Lori, this is the reason why you advocate for safe sex. You're not going to stop the sex from happening. Like, humans naturally have sex. That's just a thing we do sometimes if you're not ace. And if you engage in sex, it is better to encourage safe sex with the use of birth control, condoms, any number of things, to have better health and sex education than to try to just say, no, don't do it, it's bad. Because generally speaking, in states that have better health education, that have better access to birth control, they have lower rates of STDs, lower rates of abortions, lower rates of teen pregnancies. The data's there. You can look at it. But much like with your video when you talked about spanking children, I know that you are not adverse to just ignoring data. And can we just talk for a second about the fact that you just pointed out that, like men do, like it's okay for men to do these things, but women, it's bad for them specifically. Like you've got them in this category where they're, I don't know, subhuman, and therefore your standards that you apply to other human beings doesn't necessarily apply to them. I don't know why you have this idea. You start off this video saying that you definitely don't hate women. You can't hate women, but then you explain your position, which is an anti-woman position. This is like if a misogynist says they don't hate women, they have a daughter and they have a wife and they love them, but they still treat them as second-class citizens in the house. They still might end up abusing them. That is still a misogynist. They still engage in behavior that is exemplified as hatred of women. But they can say they don't hate women because here's the trick, here's the key. Like with you, they like the idea of a woman. Your idea of a woman is what you like, but individual women who actually exist outside of a hypothetical, that's not something you like. That's not something you like at all, because those women have choices they can make. Those women can be different. They can be not like you. And that's a scary thought, I'm sure, but it will never affect you. So maybe get the fuck out of their lives.
Or be single mothers. It causes women to have children out of wedlock. Those who don't want to abort, they have children, and those children grow up to be fatherless. Fatherless is an epidemic that is permeating our culture.
Don't lie again, Lori. You don't actually care about absentee fathers. If you did, you'd be trying to fix something that actually does lead to absentee fathers, like the prison system. Premarital sex does not lead to absentee fathers in the way that you think, because the magic marriage paper is not going to suddenly mean that the father is going to be there and present in the child's life.
And destroying it. Children need fathers. But little boys and little girls need fathers. They need father figures in their lives. Boys need fathers to raise them up to be men, and girls need fathers to raise them up to be secure in themselves and not give themselves away to anyone, but to wait.
And why is it impossible for a mother to fulfill that role? Why would it be impossible for two mothers, lesbian couple, to fulfill that role? You just pointed out that there are things that the man can teach the woman as well. Are there not things that a woman can teach? And moreover, if you are to have this point that you had earlier in the video of women ignoring certain feminine things and taking on more masculine things, what would prevent them from being able to pass down those masculine designs, desires, and thoughts and feelings to a potential son. If you're going to accept, as you did earlier in the video, that you have women who have the ability to take on these masculine traits, then I would only assume that they are able to pass on those socially engineered masculine traits as well. If you don't accept that, but you still hold on to this idea that women are taking things that are not feminine, and that's a bad thing, then you're engaging in cognitive dissonance. Either women are only feminine and can only pass on feminine ideas, or women can take on masculine ideas or any other idea like any other human being and therefore can pass on those ideas to a child as well. It's one or the other. You can't have your cake and eat it too, but you like to pretend you can.
For the right man to come along who will love them until death do they part. And in homes where fathers go to church, the percentage of children who grow up to go to church and love the Lord are astronomically high.
Yes, generally, children do tend to emulate the environment they grew up in when they, in fact, become adults because that's what they learned, at least on some level. Now, my question here, though, if we accept that, which I'm perfectly fine accepting, why is that a good thing? Maybe you should give an argument as to why church is a good thing first, before you start arguing that we must, in fact, have parents that go to church so as to have children that go to church and then grow up to be an adult who goes to church.
Feminism wants you to choose a career. They think that your worth and value comes from a career. Let me tell you another secret. Careers are for men to provide for their families. They were the result of the fall, a curse from the fall, that men were to be having to toil in the soil to provide for their families.
So what you're saying is I can blame God for the failures of capitalism? Excellent! All right, so let's go ahead and grant the premise here. Let's pretend that the Bible is real, like I did earlier, and let's pretend that Adam and Eve did in fact exist. What you've engaged in here is a fallacy nonetheless. It is the argument from antiquity. And here's the reason why. The mere fact that Adam and Eve did something in the past does not necessarily mean that we should engage in that same action in the exact same way in the future. And one of the best illustrations of this that was given to me was of a child who sees her parent cooking a ham, and she cuts off the ends of the ham before putting it into the oven. She asks her mom why, and her mom says that's what her grandma did. The antiquity of tradition. This is what her grandma did, so she's doing it. So then she asked her grandma, and her grandma said, well, it's why my mom, I did it because my mom did it. And the girl's still curious. She has no idea why people are cutting the ends off these hams before putting them into the oven. So she decides to go to the nursing home where her great-grandmother is and talk to her there. And the great-grandmother says, oh, well, we didn't have a large enough pan, and it was in the middle of the Great Depression. We couldn't afford a new pan, so we just cut the ends off the ham so that it was guaranteed to fit in the pan. Like, that's why we did it. So the reason that the girl saw her mom constantly cut the ends off this ham was because somebody far down the road created a tradition, and the need for that tradition was no longer there because they had larger pans later, but people still engaged in the tradition because they didn't know why they were engaging in the tradition. They just simply were doing it. This is the demonstration of the fallacy. You don't have to cut the ends off the ham merely because your ancestor did it. You don't have to be the gendered person toiling in the soil merely because your ancestors did that, if we assume that Adam and Eve are in fact our ancestors.
Feminism has deceived women to think that their worth comes in what men's curses, having to provide for their families.
See, at least you and I both agree that having to provide for a family is in fact a curse, and maybe we should be trying to work on a system that provides for everyone's basic needs without them having to work and toil for it at all times, so that they can actually pursue their own material interests and work that way instead. I wonder what a system like that would look like. It might probably not like capitalism. Oh, shit, right, I forgot. You think that curses are a thing that we should have forever because something Bible. Okay, yeah, right. Fuck you.
Our curse is pain in childbirth, but we get to have wonderful children, beautiful children to raise and love. Men will work hard to be able to provide for those beautiful, wonderful families. God's ways are so beautiful.
God's ways are so beautiful. They involve slave labor of men and painful torture for women. So beautiful.
feminism has taken those ways and made them ugly and made women think that they're no good. They want the women to put their babies into daycare, into public anti-God schools to raise their children so they can trot off to their careers. Everything feminism has fought for is a lie, including voting. The reason women fought to vote was because they didn't believe that men knew how to lead.
Lori, the reason that women fought for the vote is because if we're going to have laws that have to govern both men and women, we should be able to have women have some type of say in those laws. If a law is to govern me and you, then me and you should get some kind of say in how that happens, through being able to determine elected officials or something. Now, whether or not the voting system is actually the most efficient way to do this, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, women fought for the vote not because they thought that men couldn't lead, but because they wanted to have the opportunity to lead as well, and as they should. You can't really think of an argument outside your Bible as to why women should not be allowed to lead as well as men. And there were, in fact, women leaders in the Bible too, so the argument's moot anyway.
God is a patriarchal God. Sorry to tell you about that, but he is. He created men to lead and to rule. All throughout the Bible it was men. There was one exception, Deborah, but all the rest were men: patriarchs, kings, disciples, apostles, elders, deacons, prophets, forerunner of Christ himself, God, men. And that's good.
But why is that good? Why is that a good thing? Why is that a thing that we should be striving for? This is both the argument from antiquity, it happened in the past, so it must be good, so let's do it again, and the argument from authority, it's in the Bible, therefore it's good, so we must continue doing it. You're just giving me fallacy after fallacy, and you're not actually providing a good point. You're not making a good argument. Why is the fact that this happened in the Bible a good thing? Why is it a fact that men should be the ones to toil and women should be the ones to engage in torturing themselves with childbirth? Why are these things important to you? Not, they're in the Bible, so therefore yes. No, give me a concrete reason. Give me the reason that is not God said so. Because that's just kicking the can down the road. Because if God said so, then God had a reason to do it. Now we need to ask God, but we can't ask that. So I'm left asking you. And this isn't just a question to ask Lori, this is a question to ask any of you. If your reasoning behind doing something is just because you did it in the past, why? You should have a reason other than you did it in the past. This is like when you're at work and your boss says, hey, you need to do this way, and you go, but I've always done this way. Doesn't matter. It has never mattered. The fact that you've always done something one way doesn't mean the way you're doing is not obsolete or wrong or anything. And likewise, the mere fact that your boss said you should do it one way doesn't necessarily mean you should be doing it that way either, because, again, argument from authority. It's not the fact that your boss said it that makes it a good thing. So you need to be able to come up with concrete reasonings for these things. You need to be able to argue these things. If you're going to try to convince us, your audience, and I'm hoping you're trying to reach out to non-Christians, because otherwise you're just preaching to the choir, why should we engage in the behaviors that you personally espouse? And don't root it in an argument from authority or an argument from antiquity or any other number of fallacies. You can look them up, Google them. I've even got a video on multiple fallacies on this channel. I need to do a follow-up video to that at some point too. So again, please, if you're going to try to convince us, try to convince us. And if you are a Lori apologist and you want to try to convince us, use the comment section. You have the ability to. If you're a Christian and disagree with what I've said, then try to convince me. The comment section's there for that reason. If you think you've got somebody who's a Christian who knows better than you do, send this video to them. Let them respond to me in the comment section. I don't care how you do it. Just do it. Engage in that conversation. Have that argument. But I think that is enough for this video. There's only about a minute left in Lori's video, and it doesn't really change tone or anything from there. I've said what I think I want to say about it. So now we come down to, what do you guys want to say about it? The conversation goes to your court. Ball's being thrown at you. Let me know in the comment section what you think, for ill or for good. I am both good with praise and criticism, though criticism is usually infinitely more useful. So thank you for either of those. That all said, I do want to thank you guys for making it to the end of the video so that you can see my lovely patrons. These are the people that allow me to keep on going on the platform and allow me to do what I do. Without these guys and gals and N pals, I would not be able to do anything on YouTube. YouTube is not the most financially stable platform on its own. So if you have a chance and you see any of these guys commenting in the comment section below, go ahead and give them a thank you. They deserve it. That all said, what did you guys think? I think I'm going to try, as fan art comes in, that I think I can animate into something. I want to try doing that more often. That takes so much more time to make an episode that way, but I think it's worth it. I think it's better than just pointing out the fan art's there and being like, hey, this fan art's here, it's cool. Because even though fan art's there and it's cool, I do want to try doing things with it that are kind of entertaining. And I hope that the artists also enjoy me taking some of their work and going, hey, not only is this awesome and I'm celebrating it, I'm also going to do things with it too for fun. So if that is a thing that you guys like, then let me know in the comment section below. Hopefully you guys did enjoy everything in the episode. I'm trying to insert more humorous bits in there too. Not just me saying jokes myself, but the little like semi-pseudo animated bits every now and again. I guess just criticism on those. Like, give me criticism. What do you think works with these styles of videos? What do you think I should be improving on or doing more of? Just let me know in the comment section. Like that's my thoroughfare to chat with you guys. Discord is also another way you can chat. Speaking of Discord, if you guys want to play Among Us, that's a thing that we do on Thursdays on Discord. So go ahead and head over there. I don't know if there's really anything else I need to say. Like this is certainly going on for quite a while. My throat hurts. I think I'm coming down with something. It's certainly not because I've been deep throating 44 ounces of Diet Coke. But that could be a contributing factor. So either way, I think I've said everything I want to say. Thank you guys for watching. It means so much to me. And as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.